Welcome back. In this lesson, I'll go over assigning materials to your car. At this point, we're pretty much done. This step is just in case you wanted a representation of your vehicle before you got to unwrapping and creating your advanced shaders and all that. This would be a quick way to get materials and a beauty render going. I went ahead and created a simple home space, just an environment for the car to be in. And we're picking up with the model from the last lesson where we had our light rig set up and everything going. And so to jump right in, I'll go through creating a few basic materials, and then you can apply that same process to the rest of the car. So to jump right in, I'll just go ahead with the corresponding start file for this lesson open and just select the wheel and its components. And I'll just do a quick isolated render of that so we can see what we have. And this will be fairly quick, so I don't have to pause the recording for this. Okay, so that's what we've got for our render here. And what I'll do is I'll just go through now and start assigning materials. I'll hit M to bring up my material editor. And I'll just go ahead and reset my editor slots for now to clear everything out. I'll sample the assigned material. And this is just so I have a copy. I'll just reset my editor once again, and I'll sample the material here, just so I have a copy of what I was working with. And then I'll just create a new material. I'll go ahead and where it says standard, I'll do a multi-sub object. I'll just OK that, and I'll say discard all material. And the default is 10. We'll just go with that for now. We'll probably need to add more, because what we're going to do is create one master material that contains all the material IDs and different materials for the entire car. And so what I'll do is I'll just start out with the tire here. Let's go ahead and actually select everything and assign the material to it. And for the tire, I'll just use ID slot 1. I'll go to my editable poly, select my tire element. I'll be sure to set my material ID to 1 if it's not already set to 1. And then I'll just click on the first slot and I'll do the arc and design material. And from here, I'll just go in, first I select a template, and I can choose rubber. And this will give me a great base to start from. And you're seeing the rubber as if it's applied to everything, because the rest of the objects in this material probably have a similar ID. But all we'll do is go in and change the ID for all the different components. Okay, so once I have the rubber assigned there, I'll just go back up, select my wheel object, switch to element mode, and just grab everything. And I'll set its ID to 2. And then I've got the wheel sticker here. I'll set that ID to 3. And I'll just copy my first material over. And this is only because I want to keep using the arc and design material, and I don't want to have to assign it each time. Once it's there, you can go in here again and change everything, change anything that you need. And so what I'm going to do is, for the wheel, I'll just be sure to call this wheel. And it's good to name things. Makes it easier to go through and make changes and track your file. And I'll call this sticker. And so this one's fairly simple. I'll just change the color to red or such. And here you can change whatever finish you'd like for it to have. And so you can actually reset the parameters from there and start making your changes here on your own. And so what I want to do here is, I don't want roughness. I can reset all that. And some of these are carried over from the rubber preset that we used. And so if you don't want to have to deal with the preset each time, you could go in and choose a new arc and design material. And then you could do your edits from there. Just another way of doing it. And so here, I'm just going through tweaking the materials. And then for the wheel itself, I'll just go in. And I'll just choose a new one because I want to start with something different. And of course, at this point, you'd have your reference up, just so you can kind of get an idea. I'll reposition this here so you can see it. You'd want to have your reference up just so you can get an idea of how the different materials look. And so I'll hop back into my 3D app. I've got quite a few other reference images up on my second monitor. I'll just change the color to something dark. And again, at this point, it's just looking at the reference, playing around, trying to see what you can come up with. And so I'd set the glossiness to about 0.5. I'd leave the reflectivity, and I'd bring that up if I needed to. And so now we'll just go ahead and do a test render, and I'll pause the recording until the render completes, and we'll catch up there. And here is our render with our materials assigned. You can see the material separation between the rubber wheel, the rubber tire, and the wheel itself. And of course, we've got the rotor and the caliper that we need to do. So I'll just go ahead and close this. Select that object. Pull up my material editor. Go ahead and make sure I have my material assigned. And now what I could do is set the rotor to be the same ID as the wheel or whatever else I wanted to make it. And I could just set the caliper to the same ID as the sticker. Alrighty, and now I'll go ahead and just exit isolation mode. And you can see with the rest of the car here. And so once you've got that, it's just a matter of repeating the process along the rest of the car. You could simply just clone this tire, move it to the front, and then reposition your rotor, or just make things match up to the front. Or you could just go in, assign your materials to this, and then duplicate them across. Basically, you wouldn't have to do this to all 4 tires individually. All right, once that's done, the next thing I'll show you is the car paint material itself. And so I'll just go ahead, we'll just assign our initial multi-sub material to the body of the car. And so what we do now is I'd go to Edit Poly, start selecting by element, and I'll select Material ID. And so all these body parts have the same ID. And I'll just go ahead and set this to 4 for now. And then what I'll do here is I'll just click on slot number 4. And I'll just select the car paint material. And so it's got, I'll resize the material editor here so you can see, it's got quite a few parameters that you can go through and tweak and play around. I usually stay with just the basic for something like this. And so for my base color, I just make it whatever color I wanted. My light facing color, I just make a lighter version. And what I'll do now is I'll just send off a quick render just to see where we're at. And I'll pause the video until that completes. And here is our finished render for that render test. And you can see the car paint materials looking great, or a wheel. And once again, it would just be a matter of repeating this process along the rest of the car and sending off a high quality beauty render once you're complete. And with everything set up, you could also create a camera in your scene. And so now you could reposition your camera, get whatever kind of a view you want, and just render from there. That completes this lesson. Thank you so much for tuning in. Take care. and I look forward to seeing you next time.